Man City have just beaten Arsenal 4-1 at the Etihad to basically put one hand on the Premier League title. You know, normally as a United fan myself, I would feel pretty happy about this result because of the historical rivalry that our clubs share and the current rivalry that fans, and especially fans on YouTube, between the both clubs share. But I'm absolutely gutted that you guys lost this game, not just because of the loss itself, but because of the manner in which you lost it. A 4-1 thumping at the Etihad does not do justice to the amazing season that you've had, and it doesn't do justice to Mikel Arteta's ability as a coach. But one thing is clear to me from watching that game. This defeat to Man City, who are a direct title rival, is a huge learning opportunity for Mikel Arteta, because I think he'll admit himself that he got several things wrong, and those are things that he can improve on in the coming seasons. In fact, I think Arteta has learned more from the last 4 games against Liverpool, West Ham, Southampton, and Man City than he probably did in the rest of the season combined. So in this video, we're going to discuss both managers' tactics, how this game shaked out, and hone in on exactly what went wrong for Arteta in this title decider. As always, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy, and don't forget to turn on all notifications to never miss out on content just like this. So there were a lot of interesting tactics at play from Pep throughout this game, but it was very clear from the start that he wanted City to begin with a defense-first mentality. In the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, City were more than happy to let Arsenal have 60% possession, and they were keeping a tight and narrow 4-4-2 shape that looked like this on your screen here. You had Haaland and KDB as the 2 strikers, a flat 4 in midfield of Grealish, Gundogan, Rodri, and Bernardo Silva, and a defensive 4 of Akanji, Diaz, Stones, and Walker. And Pep knew that Arsenal's main threats come from their wingers and from their packed midfield. To nullify the wingers, Pep played Akanji at left back to nullify Saka in particular because Ake was out due to injury. And he also played Grealish at left wing, who was really tracking back a lot and made Saka's life very, very difficult. Pep also played Kyle Walker on the right hand side to nullify Martinelli's explosiveness, and he also overloaded the right hand side offensively with KDB joining Silva and Rodri and Walker and Haaland on this side, which automatically forced Martinelli to play a little deeper and stopped him from getting forward as easily. So as expected, both Saka and Martinelli had very little to do in terms of offensive contributions. Saka had 1 shot, 0 chances created, 35 touches, 2 dribbles, and 1 accurate cross in 80 minutes, and Martinelli had 0 shots, 0 chances created, 11 touches only, 0 dribbles, 0 crosses in 60 minutes. Both of them attempted only 27 passes and completed only 21 of them. Now, before we talk about how Pep nullified Arteta's midfield, let's discuss Arsenal's team shape in possession. As we've discussed several times on the channel already, Arteta has favored either a 2-3-2-3 shape in possession or a 2-3-3-2 in possession that looks like this. In this shape, you have both wingers high and wide on both sides, and you have the striker in either Jesus or Nketiah usually drop deeper into this attacking midfield role next to Odegaard and Xhaka. Then you have a deeper midfield line of Partey with the 2 fullbacks next to him, with Zinchenko playing a little more narrow on the inside space and White playing a little wider on the outside. And then you have the 2 center backs holding just behind Partey centrally. So the biggest reason that Arsenal have won so many games this season, and in my opinion have played the best football in the Premier League, is because of the middle 6 players that you see here. Zinchenko and Partey control the tempo of the game in the first and second phases of build-up, helping Arsenal progress the ball into the final third over here. And once the ball gets into the final third, you have Xhaka, Martinelli, Zinchenko, and Jesus available to create overloads on the left-hand side over here, and you have Saka, Odegaard, Ben White, and Jesus to create overloads on the right-hand side. And Arsenal have become experts at using these overloads to put the ball into the box in these areas over here, or to pull the defense out of position and create shooting opportunities in and around the box. But this was not the game, nor the opponent, nor the moment to play this same exact way that Arteta's been playing all season. City, and Pep in particular, is far too good and too seasoned a coach to fall for the same thing you've done for the last 32 games. Basically, Pep allowed Arsenal to have 60% possession at stretches in the first half, but it was possession in the middle third or the defensive third for Arsenal. Pep's goal was to hold the 4-4-2 that you see here and engage in a concerted and coordinated press of 3 to 4 players at a time. This meant that Arsenal were forced to either pass it sideways or backwards and kept falling deeper and deeper into their own half, with the entire team falling backwards and the ball eventually going to Ramsdale, coming back to one of the defenders and them having to kick it long. So despite Arsenal trying to play Arteta's 2-3-3-2 shape in possession, one player from the deeper midfield line was usually forced to fall into the back line, which made it a 3 at the back, and then one player from the attacking midfield line was forced to fall into the deeper midfield line, which made it a 3 in midfield. So it was a 3-3-2-2 at best in possession. As a result, everything was happening very slowly, which allowed City to keep their defensive shape intact, and Arsenal really struggled to get their forwards into dangerous positions and hurt City in and around the box. As always, we have a clip here from the first half to show you exactly what I'm talking about so you can see for yourself. So we start with Gabriel on the ball in the left back area, and he's about to play it into Zinchenko ahead of him. And here you can kind of see City's 4-4-2 approach with the 4 in midfield and the 2 up top in KDB and Haaland. As the ball is fired into Zinchenko, you can see Walker getting tied to him, which means Zinchenko has to release the ball quickly into Xhaka up ahead of him. And now Xhaka also has Rodri and Silva pressing him, so all he can really do is move backwards. So Xhaka ends up riding a tackle attempt from Bernardo Silva and ends up laying it off to Zinchenko again. And at this point, look at how compact and deep Arsenal are forced to be. Because City's press from these 3 players means that Arsenal can really only go backwards into this area instead of this area over here where they would like to go. And Martinelli's trying to offer himself, but there's no real passing lane from Zinchenko to Martinelli here. So naturally, Zinchenko has to go back to Gabriel, and Arsenal have to try something different to progress the ball forwards. Now, I want you guys to see something else here. Look at how Ben White is deeper than he normally is in midfield over here, and Xhaka is deeper than where he normally plays next to Odegaard in this line over here, and even Martinelli is forced to drop deeper into this area over here in order to provide support to Arsenal. And this is all happening because of City's coordinated press from the front. As Gabriel assesses his options, he also has to look backwards to play to Ramsdale. As we skip forward a bit, we get to Ramsdale on the ball, who's being pressed by KDB, Haaland, and Rodri in this area here, and his only option really is to hit Gabriel at left back. And even Gabriel has no real options to play it forward once he gets it because there's nobody in this area here. As Ramsdale plays it out to Gabriel, we finally see Zinchenko coming short to get the ball, but we also see another City player join the press in Bernardo Silva. So as Gabriel receives the ball here, KDB presses him so tight that he has no option but to boot it long, and the ball goes out of play for a Man City possession. So you can see from this clip how Pep's coordinated press from the front just forced Arsenal deeper and deeper into their own half and eventually forced Gabriel to kick it long to give up possession. And this tactic completely nullified the Arsenal midfield because they just couldn't get the ball out of the back into the middle and potentially towards the final third. And if you watched Arsenal this season, they dominate possession in the final third. That's how they scored their goals. So for our final talking point, let's talk about Arteta's crucial defensive mistake that caused Arsenal nightmares throughout this game. So in possession, Pep played a 3-3-1-3 where Gundogan was dropping between the center backs, as you can see here, to form a back 3. The fullbacks were inverting into midfield to play next to Rodri. Kevin De Bruyne had a free role in attacking midfield where he was linking up play across the front 3, and you had Haaland through the middle with both wingers high and wide on either side. Now the crucial tactic that made it even more difficult for Arsenal defensively in this game was leaving Kevin De Bruyne unmarked most of the game. Basically, Kevin De Bruyne was deployed in a free role by Pep like he normally likes to do, and in this game, KDB was favoring the right-hand side where Zinchenko plays, which was an effort to stop Zinchenko from getting on the ball as much and force him to defend more, which is not his natural game. And this therefore affected the Arsenal midfield. It also made Saka and Martinelli more ineffective. And as always, we have a clip here to show you exactly what I'm talking about. We start with Gundogan on the ball inside his own half. As we play along, we see Rodri dropping off of Partey into this pocket of space here to receive the ball from Gundogan, and he immediately lays it off to John Stones behind him. As Stones receives the ball, look at how deep Martinelli is over here, and as a result, how deep Zinchenko is behind him. As John Stones gets on the ball, he plays it to Gundogan inside, and look at how high Arsenal's starting midfield is over here. You have Odegaard, Partey, and Xhaka all in this area over here near Rodri, and Kevin De Bruyne is ahead of them completely unmarked. As Gundogan drives forward, again we see Arsenal's midfield being high and narrow while KDB is completely free behind them. So Gundogan gets forward a bit more and lays it off to Walker on the right hand side, and immediately Martinelli decides to press Walker, which means City are basically 3v3 down the right hand side with Silva, KDB, and Haaland versus Holding, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. As Walker gets on the ball, he lays it off to Bernardo Silva over here, and we see that De Bruyne is in a very good position to make the run down the channel on this side, and it's very easy for someone of Bernardo Silva's quality to find De Bruyne in this space. But Zinchenko is actually able to close off the angle and force Silva to move more centrally. But the point is, from this clip you can see how easy it was for De Bruyne to find space in midfield and play on the last man consistently all across the front line. He's just too good a player to be defended straight up like any other attacking midfielder in the world. And I thought that Arteta got this very wrong today by not having someone man marking De Bruyne throughout this game. So to wrap up the video, let's summarize Arteta's key mistakes and talk about how he can improve moving forward. Mistake number 1. Arteta stuck to his game plan and treated this game like any other game he's played this season, and as we've seen throughout this video and the game itself, this was a big mistake because Pep could see the strategy coming from a mile away, and he literally had 32 games worth of data to figure out how to counter this strategy. I think Arteta could have perhaps played Zinchenko at left wing, dropped Martinelli from the team, and played Kieran Tierney at left back, despite the low game time that he's had this season. Because then you could have had Zinchenko drop into midfield and create an overload on this side, perhaps creating more space for Jesus to exploit up front and having more space for the midfielders to exploit in midfield. And then you would have had Zinchenko, Xhaka, and Tierney to help defensively down the right hand side, which would be a lot better than what Martinelli could provide from starting in this team. Mistake number 2. Arteta didn't come into this game with a defense-first mentality. He expected to play like he did against other teams and have the ball at the edge of the opposition box where Arsenal have been dangerous all season. And like we saw in this video and throughout that game, it was way too easy for Man City to just sit deep and soak up the pressure. The City players are too good to get beat by Arsenal's movement in and around the box. And therefore, Arsenal never really looked like they were going to score in this game. Instead, they were often exposed on the counterattack going the other way, which is where both De Bruyne goals actually came from. In my humble opinion, Arteta should have come up with an alternative plan of sitting deep and counterattacking to win this particular game, because his usual style of play was never going to work. In coming seasons, I think you'll definitely see Arsenal playing differently in these types of games. And finally, mistake number 3. Arteta didn't give Kevin De Bruyne enough respect, and he allowed him to have way too much space. De Bruyne was basically doing whatever he wanted, and this goes back to the number 2 point where Arteta didn't come in with a defend-first mentality. Players like Kevin De Bruyne, Mbappe, Messi, and a few others at the top level are so good at so many different things that they can hurt you through goals, through assists, key passes, and so much more. You have to treat a game like this like a cup final and man mark the life out of players like Kevin De Bruyne. And it should almost be a let everyone else beat us kind of mentality. Anyone but De Bruyne should be scoring or assisting in this game. But instead, De Bruyne got 2 goals, and that's just a recipe for disaster. I believe in future seasons, we will see Arteta start to take a more defensive approach to these big games and start to man mark these marquee players like De Bruyne, Messi, Mbappe, and so on in big games like these. So let me know if you guys agree with my thoughts on the game. Get in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.